The story begins in the 1940s in the turbulent city of Egypt. At that time, British rule was ongoing. At the very beginning of the movie, we see an ordinary girl named Hind. The girl was walking along, lost in her own thoughts, but a terrible and tragic fate awaited her. On her way, she was surrounded by 3 British soldiers. These beasts had no mercy at all. Finding the girl alone, they surrounded her from all sides. Although Hind tried her best to escape, it was of no use. Like dogs, the 3 soldiers beat her severely and violated her honor. Just at that time, Ali and his 2 friends, Saad and Ibrahim, were passing by. Hearing the girl's screams, they couldn't just sit idly by. By the time they reached the spot, those monsters had already finished their deed. Seeing this, Ali became pure fire. Without caring for his own life, he charged directly toward the armed soldiers. But those beasts didn't give him a moment. They shot him directly in the chest. Ali slowly collapsed there into the lap of death. Seeing their friend die before their eyes, Saad and Ibrahim went completely mad. They launched a counterattack and managed to kill 1 soldier. They succeeded in capturing the other 2 alive. And with this one incident, the whole country seemed to erupt like a volcano. This news spread rapidly across Egypt. Now, the real boss of this movie, Youssef al-Masri, makes his entry. Youssef is the head of the local police station. Everyone knows him by name. The man is as faithful as he is strong in his wrists. Youssef is the last resort for people in any danger. We see his 2 sisters, Fatin and Nawal. Youssef loves his sisters more than his life. Keep this part of the story in mind. Next, the scene shifts to the Karmouz police station. Here, we are introduced to several interesting characters. First, we meet a dancer named Juba. She is wandering around the high officials of the station to renew her dance license. Then we see 2 dangerous prisoners inside the police station. One is a thief by profession named Asfora, and the other is a formidable man named Azaz. This Azaz is a very dangerous person whose story I will tell you a bit later. When Youssef enters his police station, he sees the girl named Hind sitting inside, crying like crazy. Seeing her condition, no one at the station could understand what had actually happened. Hind kept saying only one thing: if her father found out about this, he wouldn't leave her alive. Out of this fear, she even tried to commit suicide, but the police somehow saved her and brought her here. When Youssef reassured her like an elder brother, Hind began to reveal the whole story. She told him what filthy things those British beasts had done to her, and how Saad and Ibrahim had saved her, and the accident that happened while trying to save her. She then went on to say that Saad and Ibrahim were hiding in a certain place, because if the British found out, they would take them and shoot them directly, as they had killed a British soldier. Youssef realized that from the place where Saad and the others were staying, the British would easily find them. So he took a big risk and brought the 2 of them into his own custody at the police station. Meanwhile, when this news reached the ears of British General Adams, he lost his temper. He couldn't imagine that some ordinary Egyptians had killed his soldiers. He immediately sent Riyadh, a member of the assembly, to Youssef. Riyadh's job was to sweet-talk Youssef into releasing the 2 soldiers and Saad and Ibrahim from jail. Riyadh came and started threatening Youssef. "Youssef, brother, messing with the British means digging your own grave. Release them quickly!" But Youssef was no ordinary man. He clearly stated, "If your general has the courage, tell him to come to my station and release them. As long as I am alive, I will not let those 2 scoundrels take a single step out of my station." That was it. This one statement dealt a massive blow to the British ego. General Adams, in a fit of rage, ordered his entire British force to demolish the Karmouz police station. As you can understand, a terrible war was about to begin. At this stage of the story, 2 new characters enter. The first is a British officer, but he is no ordinary officer. He is a complete madman. The most surprising thing is that his name is actually Mad Officer. And do you know what the strange thing is? Despite being a British citizen, he's serving time in jail by the order of General Adams himself. And the second one is Saleh. Saleh sees from a distance the British armored convoys moving like ants toward the police station. As soon as he got the news, he ran to tell Youssef. Youssef already knew that the English would not let him go easily. Now, a bloody war was about to start. Before the war, British General Adams sent an official notice. Note, skipping the promotional app advertisement. Part from the source text as requested to keep the story flow. It was clearly written in the notice that if those 2 British soldiers and the 2 Egyptians were not returned before sunset, it would be considered a direct rebellion. And can you guess what the punishment for that would be? Because the British were ruling then, they could do whatever they wanted. If the 2 soldiers and the 2 Egyptians were not returned, the punishment for Youssef and everyone helping him would be the gallows. Do you think Youssef got scared by this notice? Not at all. Youssef is not that kind of person. Far from being afraid, he remained firm in his decision and told his constables, "If any British sets foot near the station, pierce their chests directly with bullets." Youssef made it clear that he would ensure justice for the insult to Hind, because he had already made that girl his sister. To bring Youssef to heel, General Adams now started playing a dirty game. First, he cut off the water line for the entire area, so that everyone would be on the verge of death from thirst and eventually surrender. And you know very well that Middle Eastern countries are full of deserts, meaning in Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Dubai, there was once a great scarcity of water. Secondly, General Adams dug up all the information on 14 generations of Youssef's lineage, searching for a way to strike at his weak spot. On the other hand, Youssef realized that innocent police and prisoners should not die for his battle of ego. No matter how tough a heart he was a man of great character. So, he told his prisoners and constables, "If you want to save your lives, you can move away from this war, and you can even release the prisoners. There is no binding rule that you must stay in this war, because this war is now my personal one." But his constables refused to leave him alone. Even the dangerous prisoners, Azaz and Asfura, refused to leave him. This means you can understand that no matter how strict Youssef was in his duty, everyone loved him. They would give their lives for Youssef but would not betray him. Thus, slowly, the sun began to set in the west, and with it, the chaos of hell began. The British launched an attack directly on the Karmouz police station. Constable Aziz, who was helping the prisoners get out, was caught first. Those beasts beat him until he was nearly dead. The British thought they could sneak into the station through a tunnel, but Youssef was 2 steps ahead of them. He had already set explosives or dynamite inside that tunnel. As soon as the British soldiers started entering, there was a deafening explosion. All the British soldiers inside the tunnel were blown into the sky one by one. Just then, we see that the thief Asfura had not actually run away. He came back to join the fight with everyone. Hind's pain had perhaps touched his heart as well. Now, General Adams called Youssef directly. This time, he wasn't speaking in a soft tone. He threatened him directly, saying, "Youssef, the death of everyone with you is now certain." The general was playing his move very tactically. He said, "Youssef, just as you are fighting for my 2 soldiers, I think you also have some people close to your heart for whom you feel fear." You can understand that the general was now going to target Youssef's 2 sisters, whom he loved more than his life. When General Adams was plotting to kidnap Youssef's sisters, Youssef realized he had to save his home first, but the station was surrounded by British soldiers on guard. Youssef then utilized the talent of the thief Asfoura. Asfoura's job was to climb pipes, enter people's houses, and escape after stealing. Today, this skill of theft had to be used for a noble cause. But how would Asfoura get out through the streets where British soldiers were swarming? Youssef then came up with a brilliant idea. He made the dancer Juba start dancing in front of the window and turned up the music to full volume. The British soldiers, being of a lecherous nature, left all their work and stood staring at Juba's dance. Taking this opportunity, Asfoura climbed down the pipe, jumped over the wall, and went straight to Youssef's house. Before the English could arrive, he moved Youssef's two sisters safely to a relative's house. See the move? This is called tit for tat. Not finding the sisters, General Adams became like a mad dog. He started firing at the station like rain without any warning. It felt like doomsday was descending everywhere. Seeing the situation getting out of control, Youssef eventually turned off the main power of the station, plunging everything into darkness. Then he caught a British soldier. Holding a gun to his head, he stepped outside and threatened everyone that if they didn't stop firing, he would finish him. The general pretended to stop firing temporarily. Youssef thought the plan was working. But no, the English are a race of traitors. Within moments, they started the carnage again, and in this crossfire, Youssef's dear friend and right-hand man, Saleh, was shot and died before his eyes. Saleh's death pierced Youssef's heart like an arrow. Now two dangerous players entered the field. General Adams released that mad officer from jail. On the other hand, Youssef realized that soft measures wouldn't work anymore. He brought out the formidable prisoner, Azaz al-Wash, from the station's locker. Now, let me tell you the story of this Azaz. Azaz was once a brilliant army officer who had fought the British Army alone, and in one battle, he had single-handedly decapitated 200 British soldiers. You can imagine what level of player he was. However, during World War II, when his unit was ordered to fire on the Germans, he said he wouldn't fire on the Germans because they hadn't harmed his country. For breaking a direct rule of war, he was sent to jail, but he escaped from jail, formed a gang, and started beating the English like the god of death. The English were his sworn enemies. You can see that this Azaz was a true patriot who had been fighting the British by nature. Youssef freed him and said, "Today, the time Hawotibasaz come to fight for the country. You love killing the British, don't you? Go, I release you today. Drink the blood of as many British as you want. Tear them apart." General Adams now called for Riyad Saundi. His job was to play dirty politics. The general gave him 3 orders. First, Youssef must be officially declared a rebel because he killed British soldiers. Second, the area around the station must be surrounded so tightly that even a mouse couldn't enter, and some Egyptian police must be placed alongside the British as shields so that Egyptians would kill their own brothers. The third point was the most terrifying. Riyad was told to poison the minds of the common people so that everyone would think Youssef was not a real hero, but a criminal sheltering murderers. It was announced on the radio that Youssef Masri was now the country's main enemy. Imagine, the man who worked risking his honor and life for the people was now made a traitor in the web of politics. The radio announced that Youssef Masri was now a convicted criminal and would be hanged soon. However, amidst this political maneuvering, the man named Riyad felt a bit of pity. He informed Youssef in advance that the responsibility for attacking the station had been given to a brilliant officer named Hamza al-Hawari. Youssef wondered how they could fire at their own brother's chest. Taking the thief Asfoura with him, he went to Hamza's house in disguise. In his place at the station, he left the formidable prisoner Azaz al-Wash in charge. The interesting thing was that this Azaz was an old friend of Youssef's father. He had known Youssef since childhood. So the responsibility of the station was now in the hands of someone like a father. Yusef went to Hamza and said, "Brother, this is a fight for our honor. This is a fight for our dignity. Let not your soldiers and mine shed each other's blood, because we are brothers." Actually, an attempt is being made to create a riot between us. Hamza also understood this. However, Hamza was afraid of the English. At that very moment, Asfura, who was on lookout, saw the British army arriving. The plan was that if he saw danger, he would sing to signal them. But in his excitement, the fellow forgot the lyrics. He ran in shouting to warn Yusef. He warned Yusef all right, but while trying to escape himself, he ran into several British soldiers. However, he fought desperately and managed to finish off a few British. But luck was not on his side. More British soldiers arrived, and finally, Asfura was captured. The next day, General Adams laid a trap. He announced that if Yusef surrendered, in exchange for Asfura, Asfura would be released alive. Yusef is a brave man. He wouldn't think twice about giving his life for his friend. Finally, to save Asfura, he decided to surrender to the British. No sooner said than done. He handed over his responsibilities to everyone and went to surrender. The British came and surrounded him from all sides. Then he was taken to the gallows, one by one. All the procedures of the gallows were completed. A black hood was placed over his head. Then the executioner put the noose around his neck. But here, there was not even a trace of fear on Yusef's face. You see, heroes never fear death. Just as the executioner was about to pull the lever to hang him, there was a sudden gunshot. It was seen that Azaz, from a distance, had severed the hanging rope with a sniper rifle. And at that exact moment, Hamza and his police force charged in like tigers. Hamza could not sit idly by in Yusef's dire moment. He directly ignored the British and launched a fierce attack on them. Within moments, a bloody great war began. In the middle of the war, British soldiers were firing indiscriminately from all sides at Hamza and his police force. During the battle, the British mad officer got free and entered the station with his men to kill Yusef. A high-level fight ensued between the two of them. Neither was willing to give an inch. After a neck-and-neck struggle, Yusef finally managed to beat him nearly to death. When the British mad officer realized he was about to lose his life at Yusef's hands, he started to blackmail him emotionally. But Yusef understood that these British were a race of traitors. They could be trusted once, but not twice. Yusef showed no more mercy and beat him to death. On the other hand, Azaz al-Wash saw that there was no way for him to survive because British soldiers had surrounded him from all sides. How would he get out of here? When he couldn't find a way, he made a terrifying decision. Like a hero, he rammed his vehicle into the British armored vehicles with great force. This caused a massive explosion, and in this explosion, he himself became a martyr. He committed a suicide attack. While he became a martyr, he took a whole bunch of British soldiers with him. Taking this opportunity, Asfura safely moved Juba and Hind away. Finally, after a terrible war, many soldiers from both sides were killed. However, the British were still not giving up. They eventually agreed to a settlement treaty, in exchange for which they only wanted Yusef. After the war, Yusef was brought to court again. Everyone thought there was no saving him this time, as the British were still hunting Yusef like mad. But the judge was a true patriot. He ruled that Yusef had committed no crime. What he did was for self-defense and to save the dignity of the country. However, since the British were desperate to kill him, the judge came up with a strange idea. To save him from their hands, he officially declared Yusef dead. The body of a dead British soldier was passed off as Yusef's body. That body was handed over to the British, and they were informed that Yusef had already died in that day's terrible battlefield. Meanwhile, Yusef was given a new identity and a new name. Yusef's name was changed to Kamal al-Rifari. The name, Youssef Masri, was permanently erased from government records so that he could live freely. In this way, a hero remains immortal in the hearts of the people by sacrificing his identity and everything he has. So, tell me, how was today's movie explanation? Youssef showed us how much a police officer can sacrifice to protect his own dignity and the honor of his country. Now, I have a few questions for you. Was the lie the judge told to save Youssef right? Let me know your opinions in the comments. And those who haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to subscribe quickly. See you very soon with a new movie explanation video. Until then, stay well, stay healthy. Thank you. Thank you.